I like to say there are 5 magical moments in the entrepreneur's journey, and most people get stuck somewhere between the second and third, and that's usually where we come in and help.
Hey everyone, we're here with the Elite Expert Insider podcast, and I'm really excited today because we have the author of 5 Obsessions, for elite organizations, Michael Erath. And he doesn't just teach entrepreneurs how to build elite organizations, he's lived it, lost it, and built it back stronger. And in his late 20s and 30s, he scaled the business to 45 million global enterprise. So in 2009, there was the housing market crash, right? And he was flat on his back with nothing left. And so we're going to learn today what he did and how he helped real entrepreneurs fight back. So welcome, Michael.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into all the real estate crash and kind of a little bit of the background of how you came to
Sure.
be today.
So I had a manufacturing business. We manufactured hardwood veneer for the furniture industry. We were based in Virginia, and I was second generation in that business, grew up from 8 to 45 million. We had about 200 employees going into the housing market collapse. One of the things that I had done along that journey was I wanted to vertically integrate the business and get closer to the raw material that we used. So I brought on a business partner, started a subsidiary unit within the business that he managed, which would actually purchase standing timber, and we would harvest timber, merchandise everything we didn't want to produce, and we would produce the better logs for ourselves. We became best friends. I was his son's godfather, and lo and behold, as we were starting into the housing market collapse, I discovered he not only had been embezzling, he had embezzled over $500,000 in about 18 months, but he was committing bank fraud. So we had to spend several years working with the U.S. Attorney's Office and the bank to eventually see him prosecuted. He served 2 years in federal prison, but it forced me to have to unwind that business to get the creditors and the bank made whole. So did that. And basically my wife and I decided we wanted to do that outside of bankruptcy, and we would take the haircut personally because we were in our mid to late 30s at the time. And we took just this attitude, we wanted to live to fight another day. So we started over from scratch, relocated to Ohio, grew a business in the same industry to about 7 million. And then I decided at that point I wanted to exit and I wanted to transition into more of a coaching and guidance role, helping other entrepreneurs not only build more bulletproof businesses that could avoid some of the things that I suffered from, but really also figuring out, and I love the name Elite being in what you guys do, but really focusing on people who truly want to build something elite in the organizations that they have and help them learn and implement tools around a framework to help them get there.
Yeah, I really like that you help entrepreneurs because a lot of times people are stuck in that plain level and they're not going to the next level, and they really need that help or that push or just the systems and processes to get there because they just
Right.
don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And I like to say there are 5 magical moments in the entrepreneur's journey, and most people get stuck somewhere between the second and third, and that's usually where we come in and help.
Yeah. And so what do you think the biggest lie is that entrepreneurs think about scaling their businesses?
That they have to, I think most commonly, that they have to do most of it themselves. And that actually gets back to this idea of these 5 stages. I think there's the first magical moment for any entrepreneur is the time at which you start the business, buy the business, or if it's a family business, the next generation comes on. The second of these magical moments is when you start to realize that the business can't grow without you, that you've created something where you're the choke point. And when that happens, if you think about it, most entrepreneurs in that phase really become the main battery power source, the backup battery for the business. And when they leave and they go home exhausted, drained, their batteries are drained, the people that really suffer when that happens is not the entrepreneur as much as it's their family, the people they really care about the most, because they get what's left. The third magical moment is when the entrepreneur actually decides to do something about that, whatever that happens to look like. And this is usually where we or other people end up getting introduced and getting involved. And our goal is to help them through this 5 obsessions framework that the book's about, help build out custom tailored systems and structures within their business so that their executive team, their mid-management teams become the main power source for the business. So the entrepreneur is no longer that main battery and being so consumed by the business. And when
Yeah.
that happens, that gets you from the fourth into the fourth stage, which is just that. You're no longer the power source. When you go home at the end of the day, you're not drained, you're not exhausted. So the people that benefit the most are the people that you love the most. And then the fifth and final stage is really as that starts to scale, because that's the type of structure and business that will scale, is that you get to this kind of entrepreneurial freedom, right? Where not only are you getting a return on investment from the business, but you're really also getting a return on life. And you're able to use the business as a vehicle to help you achieve things in life outside of the business that you want to achieve, and ultimately end up reaching some sort of an exit. And it's
Yeah.
funny, some people say, I don't really want to exit the business or whatever. But last time I checked, the death rate's holding steady at 100%. So we all will exit our businesses one way or the other. And
Right. And might as well set it up for success that you can sell it or exit in a
exactly.
successful way. I think that one of the saddest things I see is someone, who builds up their business for 30, 40 years and then they just shut the doors.
That
Is that
and
so
or
sad?
I've seen situations where it's kept in the family, it's handed off to the next generation, but what mom and dad give the kids is a chaotic mess. And then
Yeah.
the kids have to come in and try to figure that out, and it's really messy and unfortunate.
Yeah. There's a TV show about that. The Prophet. Have you seen that on TV? That's a
Yeah,
very Yeah, it's a very interesting TV show because
yeah,
that's pretty much what he does is go and save businesses where
exactly. Yeah.
the kids
Marcus
are trying to figure it out, or it's a small family business and they could be successful, but
right.
a lot of it really is delegation. I actually have a personal hard time with that because it's like, I just want to get it done right. I'm just going to do it myself instead of delegating it to the person who I should be delegating it
Yeah,
to.
and I think as human beings, we're just really bad at delegating naturally.
Yeah.
And so it's a learned skill for sure.
Yeah, but I think it sounds like you're coaching, you help people to understand that they have to take that leadership role and teach the person and delegate the person instead of just doing it all yourself.
Exactly. And I think where a lot of that starts, and this was a realization I had when I transitioned into this world of business guidance and coaching, is that I really believe that most of the frustrations between people are a result of unclear expectations. And it really all starts, I believe, with getting very good at setting clear expectations in both directions, right?
Mm.
Between the boss and the employee. And in doing that, also creating an environment where if I have somebody reporting to me and I have expectations of them, I need to understand their expectations of me, what I need to provide them, the clarity that they need, the resources and tools they need. And if we can develop within our organizations communication patterns and feedback loops where those things become alive and people feel comfortable sharing what it is that they need to have in order to be successful in their role, that goes a long way to increasing the level of faith and confidence you have in your team members to properly carry out what you expect of them, which then makes it easier to delegate.
Yeah, and I think also the hiring the right people helps
Mm.
with that too,
Right.
right? Making sure that the person you hired is the right one for the job and not it shouldn't be in a different role or a different position in your company.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point there. There's so many different directions that this could go, but in terms of hiring, within the hiring process in large organizations, obviously you have an HR component that's part of that, interviewing and hiring. But oftentimes it's up to the management team to make the selection of who they're going to hire. And they're part of that interview process. But almost no organizations have their managers actually practice how to interview. They don't really train them on how to interview, they don't role play. If you think about the importance of getting those hires right, why would you not invest time in training and practicing how to do it well? Make sure that you filter the right people on the front end and you don't end up hiring and onboarding people that are not a good fit and then having to struggle through the massive cost that really is to the business.
That makes sense because if you start at the very beginning, train the interviewers, then the interviews will be the right ones because you'll get the right person for the job.
Exactly. And I think if your listeners remember anything from this episode, I would encourage them to write this down and remember this and really focus on it. And it's that every system is perfectly designed to get the results it gets.
Right.
So if in your business you struggle to recruit, hire, and onboard high performers, you have a system in place that's perfectly designed to get you mediocrity. You have to look at the underlying system by which you are doing things to get a result and go back to the system and figure out how to change and improve and evolve the system to get a different result.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Write that down, everyone. Go back. That's awesome. So you say in your book something about how entrepreneurs are firefighters,
Mhm.
but that some fires aren't worth putting out. So what's that all about? Tell us about
I
that.
think when there's a temptation, anytime something goes wrong or there's a fire that pops up in the business, there's a very natural temptation or inclination to want to go deal with that. But oftentimes, the fires are starting because there are things you need to be working on and doing to prevent them from starting in the first place. And your attention gets pulled away from those things if you're constantly firefighting. One of the most common areas I see this is one of the 5 obsessions that we talk about in the book is having optimized playbooks and really documenting not procedural SOP type things per se, but more high level process workflows, checklists, things like that for someone in their role. And oftentimes I'll hear entrepreneurs push back that they're just too busy to get that work done. And the irony is that they're often too busy doing things that they would not have to do if they had the process playbooks in place. And so
Right.
that's what I mean. In some cases, if I'm working on building out a better process for something, and within that process, something catches on fire, it may just be fine to let it burn itself out so that I can stay focused on getting the process in place so that going forward, that fire never starts for that reason again.
Mhm. I like that. It's kind of like building it the right way so that there never is a fire.
Exactly.
Mhm. Yeah, that's awesome. At first, I was thinking you were going to say something more about the lines of just when there's fires, you let your people handle it. You don't need to handle it, kind of
Mhm.
thing. But I like your approach to that because you're really saying build your processes and your systems and your playbooks and teach everyone how to use those properly, and there won't be a fire in the first place.
Exactly. And to your point, you're exactly right. At the same time, I think another side of that is as an entrepreneur, we often feel like we need to jump in and be the ones putting out the fire. And it's often something that is not a great use of our time and is not something that is within our unique abilities and high value for the time we spend in the business. And the person in the company who ideally should be the one capable of putting that fire out, we actually enable them to not have to do it by jumping in and doing it for them. And so we miss the opportunity to develop as a result of that.
Similar to children, when you have a child and they're learning to walk
Right.
and they stumble and fall, and you hurry and go pick them up instead of letting them get up on their own.
Exactly.
Because then they're going to think you're always going to be there to pick them up instead of just
Right.
letting them figure out how to get up on their own and keep going.
No, exactly.
Yeah, that's great. What do you think the most powerful question is each entrepreneur should ask themselves every morning?
Let's see. Without having thought through how I would want to answer that, I think the first thing that comes to mind is thinking about on a daily basis where am I finding myself frustrated, and am I frustrated with a person or with a process? What needs to change? Back to that idea of the system. If
Yeah.
it's I'm finding myself frustrated with a person, am I being clear with them? Am I giving them clear direction? Am I being radically candid and telling them exactly what I think and what I need to see? Or am I avoiding some of the conversations that I need to have? And therefore, I'm not being fair to the individual. I'm just letting myself get frustrated, which doesn't often end well.
Mhm.
Or if I'm frustrated with the way something is going in our business and there's a consistent outcome I don't like, am I putting energy into studying the system by which we're getting that outcome? And I think those are probably 2 things that if entrepreneurs do a daily check in with themselves in those 2 areas, they will start to quickly identify and improve areas within the organization that most need it, because your frustrations are feedback. And I think not just letting the frustrations build, but actually thinking about what you need to do to resolve those.
And what kind of systems can fix those? Like adjusting your processes or adjusting your systems to fit, to
Exactly.
make them. I like that. So I know you built lots of businesses and you've lost it all and then you've rebuilt it back up. What do you think the most powerful mistake is that you made? And how should entrepreneurs avoid it?
For me, with the benefit of hindsight and a lot of time to reflect on having lost everything once, the biggest thing that I missed was I took things I was being told at face value and I stopped there. And you can have a business partner, you can have team members on a leadership team or managers within a company that you really trust, you have good relationships with, but you still owe it to yourself to look at the data and ensure that the data you're seeing and the evidence you're seeing validates what you're trusting. And that I allowed that to be a blind spot for me because of my friendship with my business partner. So I think that's an important thing, to just keep the numbers and the data very clear and trust the evidence that you're seeing. And if that is incongruous with what you're hearing from people, then have conversations around that and force that to the surface.
Yeah, have those uncomfortable conversations. I think that's important. And I think a lot of times that does happen where business owners become friends and then certain things don't happen because you're on a friend level instead of a business owner level. And
Right.
you kind of have to change your hats and make sure that you're talking business and not, it's okay to be friends, but you definitely have
Right.
to address the issues that are hard to address if it was just your friend, right?
No, exactly. And it's funny. A good friend of mine, Joe Polish, who's the founder of Genius Network, he likes to say that the most dangerous ship to board is partnership. There's
Right.
a lot of truth to that at times because it either goes really well or sometimes doesn't.
That's definitely true. Yeah, we've been in business now for, this is our 11th year,
Awesome.
and my business and partner and I, and it's going really well. We have definitely developed a friendship, but
Yeah.
we are first business partners.
Yeah.
So,
That's great.
yeah, that's really great. Tell people where they can go to get more information,
Mhm.
to get a copy of your book, and if you have something to give to our listeners, tell them
Yeah.
about that.
Absolutely. So the book is written to be really a blueprint that not just gives you concepts, but gives you tools you can use and actually walks you through how to use the tools in your business and how to customize them to your business. We do have on our website at nextlevelgrowth.com, there's a tab at the top of the page to take the Elite Organizations Assessment. And the assessment takes about 7 minutes to go through, and it asks 10 questions around each of the 5 obsessions that will help expose areas where you may have some big opportunities to make improvements. And when you take the assessment, you get a free 20-page report that is customized to your unique scores, that includes links to articles, it includes links to videos and all kinds of different resources and tools that you can use to start making those improvements. And for listeners of the podcast, I've talked to my partners in business guides, and we've agreed that anybody who takes the assessment and would like to take us up on it, we'll offer a 1 hour free, no pitch, no pressure, just coaching call around any one or two tools that we have that, based on your results, would help you in an area that you could get the most value quickest. So if you want to do that, you can go to nextlevelgrowth.com, take the assessment, and you'll get an email will follow with the delivery of your assessment. You can reply directly to me through that email, and I can get you connected with somebody if you want to take advantage of that free call.
That's awesome. That's very generous of you to offer that free consulting. That's great, or free coaching. Well, go to nextlevelgrowth.com to make sure you fill out that survey. And of course, also go and get his book, and everywhere books are sold, you can go grab that as well. So, Michael, tell us one last nugget of what our listeners can use that you'd want to leave them with.
I would say one thing to do with each of your direct reports and teach everybody in your organization who leads a team or leads any other person to do this is, and you can get the how-to in the book, but make sure you have really created clear behavioral core values in the organization, and that you've gone through a process, not a marketing process to figure out what you should put on your website, but what they truly are. And I like to refer to them as behavioral core values, because our core values are what we espouse to, but the behaviors are how we authenticate what they really are and how we align. And I would say that every relationship in your life, whether it's personal or professional, succeeds or fails based on the alignment or misalignment of your values. That's something that is often glossed over as everybody has to have core values, and all they end up being is signs on the wall, and people don't really know how to operationalize it. But I think if you get really serious about that and have some sort of a feedback loop, I like to recommend, I call it a quarterly calibration, and that's kind of the way we teach it, where you sit down one-on-one with each of your direct reports, and you just spend some time conversationally talking through the behavioral core values, asking them how well they think they've been aligning with that behavior over the last 90 days, and let them know how you think you're doing. And use that not as a performance review, but just an opportunity to recalibrate with each other and make sure you're still aligned. Make sure you can talk about any specific areas where either there's a deficiency or where they've really leaned into a core value and done something that's going above and beyond, so they feel appreciated for that. So I think just having a process like that where you're constantly working on a feedback loop and calibrating with each other, just like any piece of equipment or a watch, it's got to be calibrated from time to time or it doesn't perform as well. And I think we have to look at our people the same way.
That's a really good nugget. That's really good wisdom. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Michael, and we're happy to have you. Everyone, please subscribe and this video or this podcast. And of course, if it has value to you and you'd like to share it, please share it with your friends. Thanks a lot. And this is Jenn Foster signing out.
Hey, are you looking to increase your revenue, build credibility, and elevate your brand? This podcast is brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, an innovative publishing and full spectrum marketing company. They will publish and market your book to make it a #1 bestseller. Becoming an author is the best way to market your business. So contact them at eliteonlinepublishing.com today. All of their authors become #1 bestsellers.